Hello everyone, in this video we'll discuss some important list functions. So suppose I have a list created as with element 10, 20 and 30. Now if you want to print or calculate the length of this list, so you can use a familiar function len, which we have used with strings also. Okay, so you just write len and inside the bracket you specify L. It will print or it will get you the length of the string, which is 3 in this case, since we have 3 elements here. Okay, so nothing new here. The second function you need to know is list. Again, we have seen this function already, so we are not going to discuss it here, but you have to remember that this list function can perform 2 operations. First operation is, of course, you can create an empty list by using it like this, and later on you can fill this empty list with elements. As you can see, this list is empty right now. And the second operation that you can perform with this list function is to convert something into list. So if you remember, in the previous video I had converted a string, for example this, into a list. So let's do it again here. So I'll write L is equal to list, and inside this bracket you just specify what you are converting. So I am converting S into a list, and then I am storing that list in variable L. So after this, when you print L, as you can see, this string is successfully converted into a list. Next function is the append function. We have also seen append function in the previous video, but let's see it again here. So if you have a list 10, 20 and 30, and if you want to add something at the end of this list, so for that purpose you can use l.append. okay, and whatever value you specify here, for example 40, will be added to the end of the list. As you can see, you cannot use append function to add new values anywhere in between 2 elements, somewhere here. Okay, so the element will always be added to the end of the list. And of course, the reason behind using append function is that you cannot insert or you cannot add new values to the list simply by using its index. Like if I want to insert 50 here, so if I write L4 is equal to 50, it doesn't work. Okay, so you have to use append function with list. With the other objects that we are going to see in future, this technique will work just fine. So we'll see it later. Okay. The next function, which works in the same way as append function, but there is some difference. So that function is extend. So I will write l.extend, and inside the bracket of extend function, what you have to do is you must specify a list. Okay, without it, it won't work. So suppose I specify elements 11 and 22 here. So what I'm doing here is I am going to add these 2 elements at the end of this list. Okay, so what Python interpreter does here is it will unpack each element from this list, which I am highlighting, one by one, and then those elements one by one will be added to the list. It is not like this entire list will be added at the end of the list. Okay, so let me press enter and let's print L, and you can observe it here. Okay, as you can see, elements 11 and 22 are unpacked first of all one by one, and one by one they were added at the end of the list. Okay, so this is what extend function does, and you cannot do it with append function. So if you use append function here, and if you specify a list here, For example, let's write 99 and 88 here. Just observe what it does. It has added the complete list as a single value to this original list. Okay, so remember, with append function, whatever you write inside the bracket will be added to the end of the list as it is. In whatever form you write it here, it will be added with that format only inside the list. Whereas in case of extend function, you have to specify a list, that is a compulsion, and elements will be unpacked and then they will be added one by one to the end of the list. So this is the difference between extend and append function. The next function I'm going to explain is insert. Insert function is used to insert a new value anywhere you want in the list. So for example, if you want to add a new value 100 to this list at index 2 or at position 2, for example. So inside insert function, you have to specify two things. First is the index where you want to insert, and second thing is of course the value itself. So in this example, I'm going to insert the value 100 in the list at second position. Second position means after this 10. So what do I have to write here as a first value? Index. So index in this case should be 1, because second position is index 1 and the element is 100. So now you can see the element 100 is added at index 1. The next function is count. Count function can be used to count the number of times an element is present in the list. So let me do one thing. Let me recreate this list again, and I'm specifying values as 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 2, 1 and 2. Okay, so let me remove this. Okay, so this is the list, for example, and now I want to count how many times the number 1 or the number 2 has appeared in this list. So how do I do it? I have to use l.count function here. Okay, so inside the brackets of the count function, you just write the number you want to count. So if this number is present in the list, it will check for its presence among all the other elements, and wherever it finds the presence of this given number, it will increase the count accordingly. So when you press enter key, it says 4. So this 4 means the number 1 has appeared 4 times inside this list. So I hope it is very simple for you to understand. The next function is index function. So if you have a list and you want to know the index of any element, okay, so you can use it like l.index, and inside the brackets you specify the element of which you want to know the index. So I want to know the index of this value 10. So it prints 0. This means the value 10 is present at index 0. Quite simple. But what happens when there is a list which contains an element more than once? So for example, 10, 20, 30, and again I'm writing 10 here. So now when you use index function l.index, and if you specify value 10, in order to know at what index 10 is present, so what index should be printed on the screen according to you. So in this case, when there are multiple appearances of an element in the list, and then when you want to know its index using this index function, it considers only the first occurrence of that element. Okay, so when you press enter key, it says 0 again. It has simply ignored the presence of value 10 at this index. So remember, if multiple times an element is appearing in the list, it will consider only the first occurrence of that value in the list for this function index. So I hope it is clear to you. Now what if I have a list and I want to remove an element from it. I want to delete an element from the list. So you have many ways of doing it. One of the ways I have already explained in the previous video, that is you can use list slicing to delete elements. So in case if you don't remember which function to use to delete elements, you can simply use list slicing to delete elements. So you can check that previous video if you want, if you have anything which is not clear to you regarding list slicing, okay, and how to use it for deleting elements. But here, since we are talking only about functions, so there are more than one functions to do it. So for example, if I want to delete this value 20 from the list, so the simplest way is to write del, which is an independent function. Okay, so independent function means you don't have to use this del function like l.del. So never write it like this, it won't work. So you'll write del, and inside the brackets you specify l square bracket 1. As you can see, it works, and then when you print the list, element 20 is gone. Okay, another way of using this del function is, suppose you have a list 10, 20, 30 again with these elements, and again I want to delete 20. So I can write del space L1. As you can see, without brackets also del function is working. So this is a property of this del function. So not every function works like this, so just remember guys. Okay, so when you print L now, again you can see the element 20 is deleted. Okay, the next function which is used to delete elements is remove. So if I have list with elements 10, 20, 30 again, and I want to delete this element 20, so one way is to use slicing, second way is to use del function, okay, and third is that you can use this function remove. But for using this remove function, it's an object specific function first of all, so you have to use it with l dot remove like this, and inside the brackets you have to specify the element which you want to delete. Now remember, you are not asked to write the index of the element here. So this is what remove function is. It requires the value itself which is to be deleted from the list. So the value in this case is 20. So I'll write 20 here. So what it does is it will search the value 20 and it will automatically delete it from that position, from that index. So when you print the list, you can see the element is gone. So if I have elements 10, 20, 30 and 10 again, for example, and now if I use l dot remove and 10, okay, so the statement has worked, but according to you, what should which element is deleted here, okay, after this statement? So again, it is always the first occurrence which is considered for these list functions. So you can easily predict the output here. Let me print it here, and you can see this 10 is still there, but the first 10 is gone. The first 10 is deleted from the list. So again, if you have multiple occurrences present in the list of an element, and if you are using the remove function, in that situation only the first occurrence of that value will be considered for this function. Okay, you can also use a function called as pop to delete elements. So again, you have to use it like l dot pop, and inside the brackets what you have to specify is the index. Okay, now remember, remove function requires element or the value to be deleted, and pop function requires index. So if you want to delete 20 here, for example, then inside the brackets here let me write it again, L dot pop, and inside the brackets you have to specify 1 here. So it is actually showing which element is deleted from the list, and when you print the list, the element 20 is gone. So you can clearly understand the difference between pop and the previous functions that we have discussed for deleting elements, and that is the pop function deletes the element, that's all right, but after deleting the element, it returns the element which is deleted from the list. So for your purpose in a program, if you want to keep or if you want to store the deleted element in some other variable, okay, for your purpose you can use this pop function for that type of requirement. So I guess it is clear to you. Okay, the next function is reverse. So if I have a list with elements, for example 1, 0, 88, 5, 6 and 9, and for some reasons I want to reverse it. Okay, now don't get confused between reversing elements and sorting elements. Sorting is arranging the elements in ascending or descending order, and reversing means simple, you are going to reverse the elements of that list. So for that purpose you have a function reverse. So how do you use it? Quite simple, you just write L dot reverse, and then when you print the list, as you can see, all elements of this list, in fact the entire list, is reversed. So this is how you can use reverse function. Now if you don't want to reverse the elements of the list, you want to arrange them in ascending or descending order. So for that purpose you have a different function called as sort. So let's see how sort function works. So let me recreate that list I used in the previous example. Yes, and now I'm going to arrange all these elements in ascending order. So for that purpose you have to use L dot sort, and that's it. Print the list, elements are sorted. It's that simple. And let me recreate that previous list again. Okay, and if you want to arrange them in descending order, so what do you write? You write L dot sort, and inside the bracket you have to write an argument which is reverse is equal to true. As soon as you write reverse equal to true, this will give an indication to the sort function that the arrangement of elements is going to be in descending order here. Okay, so by default when you don't write this argument, it is always ascending. So when you print the list now, you can see all the elements are now arranged in descending order. So this is how sort function works. And again guys, if you have a list of alphabets or strings, it will be sorted alphabetically, so that is not a problem. So I hope this sort function is clear to you. You can use this sort function, you can apply sorting by using another function called as sorted as well. So let me show it to you here. So if I have that list, okay, this list is not sorted as you can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use another variable called L2, and in this list I'm going to use a function called as sorted, and inside the sorted function I'm going to specify this list L. Now when you print L2, you can see the elements are sorted. Okay, so you can use sort function or you can use this sorted function to apply sorting. You can also use the sorted function to arrange them in descending order. Okay, so you just have to write L2 is equal to sorted L and just put a comma here, and then write reverse is equal to true. Okay, so now when you print L2, you can see the elements are now arranged in descending order. Okay, so you can use sort method or you can use sorted method. Both ways you will be able to arrange the elements. Okay, but what is the difference here? So if you had seen the sorting with sort function, you must have observed that as soon as you write L2 dot or L dot sort, okay, the original list is changed. But in this case, if you print L, you can see there is no sorting applied on it. Okay, it remains whatever it was at the time of creation. So whatever change happened, it happened in this list L2. So this L2 list is containing the ordered set of values, ordered values, but here there is no change in the original list. So for some reasons in your program, if you do not want to disturb the arrangement of values in your original list, okay, you have to use sorted function in that situation, because as soon as you apply sort function, the original list will be changed. So this is the difference between sort and sorted function. And of course this sorted function is going to return a list every time it is used. So in this case also it is returning a list, and that list I am storing in variable L2. So there is no change on the original list. So this is the difference between these two functions. Now you can also apply some functions to find out minimum, maximum, and also sum value from the elements of the list. So if we have a list 10, 20 and 30, and I want to display the sum of all these elements, so you have to use the independent function sum here. Remember, you cannot use L dot sum. There is no function in a list with the name sum, so that you just remember. So use sum, and inside the bracket you specify L. Simple. So it will print the sum of all these elements. So sum is not a list specific function, guys. That just remember that this is an independent function, has nothing to do with L dot sum like that. Okay, similarly, if you want to find out the minimum value, you can use an independent function called as min, and then you specify L. It gives you minimum value. And if you want to print the maximum value, you can use another independent function max and specify the list. It will give you the maximum value. Okay, so I hope all these functions are easy for you to understand. So these were some important functions that you can use on lists to serve your purpose in a program. So that's it for this video. I hope everything is clear to you. If you have any question, you can ask me in the comment box below. Thank you so much for watching. Do like, comment and share if you have liked the content, and subscribe to my channel.